Hi, welcome back to Messenger Motorworks and my dirty garage. We're working on the Saab again today, unfortunately. Still having fueling issues. The same kind of second gear, full throttle. I start to kind of run out of gas at 5,000 RPM or so. Third gear is probably about 4,700 RPM, and it's not run out of gas like the car starts to chug. It just kind of, and sometimes it'll stutter a bit, and then if I let off and come back on, there's power there again until I reach back up to that point in the RPM range. So it genuinely feels like the volume of gas isn't enough to keep pouring the right amount of fuel out of those. So it's being kind of limited by the volume of fuel. So I've changed the fuel pump. I have a fuel pressure regulator as well. I didn't bring it down, it's up in the house. I should probably try to change that today too. We're gonna change this fuel filter. I don't know how old the fuel filter is on the car. The fuel filters are located right up under this area right here. So we're gonna kind of jack the car up. You're gonna get a really good look at my rusty dog leg, and we're gonna see how bad it is, number one, to be laying under a wet car with snow falling off of it, and two, to get old banjo bolts out of possibly a factory 157, 158,000 mile fuel filter. Now, fuel filters can go bad enough on these to limit volume. They'll let you hold a pressure, but they're only gonna let so much through. So this is kind of a desperate, please give me all of my fuel so I can have my whole rev range sort of situation. Now, you should just replace filters after some time anyway. I have no maintenance history on this car, as I've discussed before. So this is what we're gonna try to do, and maybe a little bit later the fuel pressure regulator. Although I did finally hook a fuel pressure gauge up to the rail, and the pressure all seemed fine. At idle, I had about 41 PSI. If I gave it some gas, it would jump up to 42, 43, and as the vacuum came on, it would dip down into the 30s. The fuel pressure regulator seems to be doing its job properly. What's it hurt to change it anyway? I don't know. We're gonna go at this. So let me rearrange the camera, get some tools, and we'll have with the misery. All right? Okay. Not sure how well you can see what's going on here. We have a plastic cover, which is zip tied on. Now this doesn't appear to be zip tied on in the typical fashion. It just got dripped on. That comes from the factory that I've seen. So who kind of knows, maybe this fuel filter has been changed before. But that should just clip off and then, pull away. Supposedly. There it is. Okay, yeah, that is not a factory zip tie job. That's several small zip ties put together. Also, apologies if you have to pee now, because my floor drain is just draining fluid. To be quite honest, I'm not even sure I'm going to use this video because the view's so bad. My lift isn't open. I should really be doing this on my lift. There's 2 banjo bolts and then 1 retaining bolt. And of course, it all looks pretty rough on this car. I am going to PB blaster everything, some penetrating fluid. I'm a big fan of the PB. Kind of get it into there, and maybe it kind of will get to where it needs to get to. Some on this side. Oh yeah, that's properly nasty. Now, I'm going to leave the fuel filter installed while I try to break the banjo bolts, because I think if that fuel filter is able to move around, less success would be had, or at least success might come later than keeping it attached. So for leverage sake, we're gonna let her stay attached, and we're gonna try to get this off. Now, I need to get a bucket, I need to get a wrench and a socket for that. I'm gonna start off with trying to figure out what size that is. Not a 19. Not an 18. But a 17. Now I've heard that this is a 22 millimeter on the factory pump, or filter rather, not quite sure. But I do happen to have this 22 here, and that is absolutely a 22. Now this is going to squirt some fuel. It might squirt it out rapidly because this car does seem to be able to hold about 30 psi between, you know, shut off and restart, which is pretty good for an old girl. So it might spit at me. All right. We have an old plastic tub here. Now, let's see if my somewhat weak arms will be rendered even weaker from the lack of leverage that I have on this. Yeah, there's the squirt of fluid. That actually came off pretty nicely. I'm rather impressed with that. Whoop, missing my bucket. There we go. Gloves. Gloves are important, everyone. Can't go wrong with a set of gloves. So the other side, you can't see it, and I'm not going to touch my camera with fuel-y gloves. You'll have to just believe me. The other side has steel bracketry right at the other side of the banjo bolt. If you're doing this at home, you'll see it. Very kind of frustrating. And actually they have an even larger socket size on the other side of the filter, which is frustrating. Here's hoping the size they cast it is a 24, because I think that's the biggest I got. It is bigger than a 24. How infuriating. I do have this one double opened wrench with a 24 on one side and a 27 on the other. Oh, and it's just a little loose. But it might get the job. It's actually pretty loose. That's got to be like a 25 millimeter. I wonder if there's a domestic size that fits it. Okay, I don't know why I was screwing with that. I do have this adjustable, which is it's a Stanley, which, you know, might be considered a budget brand, but I've been trusting this adjustable wrench for years, and it has really held in there. Okay, according to its little meter, it's a 26 millimeter according to its little marks. I don't know why the fuel company would do that. Now, it could be that it is actually a 1-inch socket head on the other side there, which would be like 25.4 millimeters, which might be close to kind of what those hash marks are saying. But I don't have a 1-inch wrench, so we're going to try the adjustable. Unfortunately, another issue is that I cannot fit a socket on the other side, so I need to get a wrench. Now, what size do you suppose that is? I think it's bigger than the other side. Could they have kept things nice and clean and done a 19 on the other side? That does feel pretty... gosh, that might be an 18. Bastards. It's okay, I do own several 18s because for some reason it's the size you never need, so you never lose. Okay. It's a rusty banjo bolt. Oh gosh, and she just doesn't want to go on there. But it feels like it should go on there. It feels like it's the right size. Yeah, that is the right size. We'll get it on there. And we'll get our adjustable wrench here. And we'll have another go at cracking this thing loose. Look at that. Ladies and gentlemen. Those banjo bolts came out miraculously simply. I am downright impressed with that. Now there's going to be little crush washers. Oh, crush washers. Did the fuel filter come with crush washers, guys? Uh-oh. To prove that my cheapness knows no bounds, I got a fuel filter to try, which is the cheapest possible on the Amazon. And it has no markings except for made in China, a part number of 8 digits, and a direction arrow for flow, which of course is that way, which lines up with how the filter was in there. So, yeah, that is L cheap. Oh, but don't care. It did come with washers, little crush washers, not brass, which is interesting. It's more of a silvery color, but we'll roll with it. We're gonna go with it. We're gonna let it happen. We're not complainers here. We deal with what's thrown at us. Yeah, here's more fuel. There's one of those old crush washers. Now, interestingly, despite this all looking pretty well rusty, it all came out very nicely. So here's hoping for your project you experience the very same thing. Do double check that the old crush washer isn't stuck, you know, on this, because that could create a leak if you throw another crush washer up over it. I'm just going to kind of see that. Do I have two? Yes, I have one in the bucket, and then I have one still attached to the banjo bolt. I'll have to get that off, but that verifies that both are off that side. And then same thing on the back end here, the intake. You want to be sure that both banjo bolts fall away. And there's one, or both rather, crush washers. There's one crush washer. And the other one is here. So there's both. All right, we're cruising, we're flying. This isn't too bad. Now, that looks like a, oh gosh, is that a, why am I so, I've been wrenching on cars since I was 14, and I still can't just say, that's a blah 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 size. For some reason, my eyes always screw with me, and they're like, that's a 10, but it's always a 13. I don't know what happens there, or what went wrong, or if I was dropped on my head, or if I'm cross-eyed, or what's going on, but I'm going to grab a 10 first and see. It was a 10. My eyes did not screw with me that time. Oh, where's my, oh, my wrench is right here. Duh. Okay, let's see how this little tiny 10 millimeter comes out of its home. Gently as to not shear it. Don't get me wrong, if it's sheared, I would just totally zip tie this bad boy up. I have no qualms with a zip tie. I will not be drilling and tapping that hole. But it appears I'm not going to have that kind of problem. Because Lady Saab is being kind. Alright. filter. No idea if it's any good or any more bad. Not a clue if I'm wasting my time entirely. So that's just one clip. It's got a little alignment hole there that it lines up with and pivots up there, holds the filter. Very, very simple, basic, but stout design, as long as it doesn't rot to pieces. I'm gonna grab a paper towel and clean that a little bit. I need to get my banjo bolts in line. I'm ready to put back on with the new crush washers. Yeah. This car is a bit of a weird one. The dog legs rusted out, especially this passenger side. It's in genuinely rough condition, to the extent that I may actually have a body guy fix it, or I'll try to fix it in front of you guys and embarrass myself with how bad my body work talent is. Or really, it's just a sheer lack of talent when it comes to doing body work. All right, backside banjo bolt. But the underside of the car is impressively clean. Where is that bolt? I can't see in there. There it is. The underside of the car is in brilliant condition for some reason. Although, even though the dog legs seem to have just rotted, so Saab just not doing a very good job. It must have retained moisture from underneath, and they probably rot out from the underside, is what I imagine. But I'm probably gonna get it. I'm gonna get it fixed because I rather like this car. That will not come off of there. Screwdriver time. All right, I got my intake banjo bolt, my exhaust or clean fuel banjo bolt. I got my new fuel filter here. I got somewhat partially dry gloves. Kind of do a little bit of this. Although fuel's probably still going to just keep coming out a little bit here and there. Pointless to wipe those down. Now we got the new crush washers. And there is a big size and a small size. Note, when reassembling, bigger is the intake. It's the fuel from the tank. Smaller is the clean fuel that heads to the engine. And the bigger is on the back, the smaller is on the front. So we're just gonna kind of set those there in this little clean spot. We're gonna leave those there to sit. And then we are going to clamp in this new filter. Like so. Well, I need to find my bolt, I guess, huh? Oh, there it is. Found it. It's basically a, if you can see that, hopefully, a self-tapping sort of sheet metal screw. Saab not really getting too extravagant with that design, which is probably okay. If they try to put some sort of machine screw and press in a little collar with threads, it probably would have rusted and not been any good. Okay, this is probably gonna seem a bit awkward here. The lines are in my way. I've got to get that up there. Gotta do that. I've got to flatten that. And then I gotta go in a little bit blind here with actually getting the screw in. If I could just get it to bind and go down and get the socket off the wrench and then come back up and turny. Okay, this is going shockingly well. This is going. I actually cannot believe it. I guess I could have put the clamp on and just pulled the fuel pump out, or not taken the clamp all the way off, but regardless, we're there now. I'm going to start with the big side, the back side that I'm blocking you guys from. It's not that exciting, you're not missing a lot. I'm going to put one of the new crush washers, you probably couldn't see what I was just holding up, onto the banjo bolt. I'm going to put the banjo bolt through the line. And I'm going to put the other crush washer on the other side of it. Kind of hold it there with my finger. I'm going to bring it up to the fuel filter and start to thread. New threads. Brilliant. Those go in quite nicely. Same thing with the front banjo bolt or the cleaned side. Give a crush washer. Put it through the line. Other crush washer. I'll hold those things on there. Get it lined up. These are kind of nice big threads. They thread on very nicely. And there's that. So I don't want either of those lines to be under tension by the time I kind of clamp this thing down. So I'm going to kind of leave them loose. I'm going to let this thing naturally rest where it wants to rest. And I'm going to tighten up that screw right there. I'll get that out of the way. Oops. Come on, Joe. Remember not to over torque, just a little bit of hurr, and then be done with it. Same thing with the banjo bolts. Now the banjo bolts will take a little bit of torque on them, but you don't want to go crazy. Just don't go crazy. There's no reason to get ridiculous with these. You just want to flatten the washers a little bit, and hey, if you don't have it tight enough, it'll just squirt a little bit of fuel. It's fine. You get back under there and you tighten them up. Not a big deal at all. Do not over tighten. Over tightening is always bad. Well, you see it kind of move on me there. That's interesting. Now, let me remind you, the backside here, the bolt is not in amazing condition, so getting a grip on it is proving somewhat difficult. But that feels pretty good. That felt nice. That felt really nice. Oh, did you see that? That slush tried to get me. Just grazed my hat. I felt it. All right, now this front side, we're going to go back to this guy here. And then, what was that? Was that the 22? Did I put the 22 away? Damn it all. All right, we got the 22. We got the 17. We give her some crush. Right? How about we give her just a little bit more crush? Okay. Now, funny enough, this thing is shifting around in here a little bit, but I've got that bolt pretty tight, which kind of might mean this fuel filter is just a little under-spec'd. Cheap Chinese company saving a buck everywhere they can, but I think it holds it well enough. It's not gonna go anywhere. So I'm gonna go turn the key on a couple of times and let the fuel system prime, and we're gonna see if it squirts out any fuel. You will get a nice show on that camera if it does squirt fuel. Let's give it a shot. It's dry. We are not leaking. Miraculous, right? Now, cover. Actually, don't remember which direction this was on. I suppose it was probably like that. What's interesting is there's scoops here. Why? Why would there be a scoop? It's basically asking to have water splashed up onto it. I can't imagine it's for cooling. I don't think your fuel pump or your fuel filter is getting hot from flow. So I guess we squeeze that bad boy on there, like so, right? And then I think a zip tie is in order, which, How do you manage that? Give this a try. Going up over. Little hands. Ooh, that's difficult. I can't get up there. That's interesting. What about this side? Well, I can reach that side. Can I get this thing to come down? What if I go this direction? That's the banjo bolt. That's the line. Not even up over the fuel filter there. Okay, there's the fuel filter. Oh, I lost it. Let's get it pulled over this way. And my zip tie is not long enough. But it is sticking down. Oh, my zip tie is rotated the wrong direction. That is inconvenient. I screwed that up. Let's try it again. Let's actually just maybe do this, get it around the tube. Okay, I don't love that. I also don't love using 2 zip ties, but I think these are my longest ones right now. I'm a heavy zip tie user, and I just seem to blast through them. So we want to make a loop, and then before we get it tight, we want to make sure that it's actually gripping the fuel filter and not like a line. So we go up and make sure that it is in fact up over the fuel filter, which it does feel that way. Make sure you're grabbing kind of some of this plastic so it won't shift around. Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, it does that. And rotate that and give her some torque. Yeah, that feels pretty good. It's not going to go anywhere. And then cut off the excess. Snip. I call these nippers. Everybody argues with me, but I think it's the most appropriate name. Not side cutters. Nippers. All right. That is a fuel filter change on a 2002 Saab 9.5 Aero. Probably not going to fix my problem, but it's worth a shot anyway. Thanks for watching.